we had a look at how to calculate this part of the averages. So if you haven't finished that, I suggest that you go and work your way through that first part of the video, because this will show you how to get the file that we're going to be using in this tutorial. And we're going to have a look at how to expand the program to print the median and the mode averages, and also how to add an option so that the user can save their list of numbers to a text file, and how to read that back. Now, a couple of useful codes that you're going to want to have a look at are, one of them is called statistics. Now this is a module that we can load into Python which allows us to use the mode function and the median function, which means that you don't have to write massive lengths of code to calculate the mode and the median for your information. So I've got import statistics, so I've imported the module, I've got my list, and then with mode it's statistics.mode, and then in the brackets you want to put your variable for the list, and then for the median you want it just to be statistics.median, and then you've got list. So if we run that, you'll see that it comes up and shows us that the mode is 20, so there's 2, so the mode is 20, and the median is 135, and it's sent that to us as a float, because quite often that can come back as a decimal number. So you've got the mode and the median, so it's a very nice easy way to achieve that. The second part is save list of numbers. So how do we save a list of numbers? Now quite a lot of the time people will save a list, but when they try to open it back up again it's no longer a list, it's actually saved as a string. So a way around that is you can import a module called pickle. Now as the name would suggest, pickle is basically about preserving something, so it preserves the data as the information the way that it's stored. So if you save a list using the pickle method, it means that it will be exactly the same when you open it again, so it preserves that data type. So to do that I've got f equals open, so this opens the example file and it writes this to the file. So that's a way that you can save a string to a file. But if you want to do a list, you need to do this second part. So with open you need to write what the file is and what you want it to be called, and then you do WB. Now this basically stands for write binary, so that means that you're going to write in binary mode, and that means that Python will be able to read it back in binary as well. So you've got as file, and then you do pickle.dump, you write the variable that you want to save, so I've got list, and then you do comma and then the file, so it's basically referring back to this variable here which refers to this example.txt. And then with open you've got example.txt, and then I've got RB here, so instead of just being R we've got RB, which is read binary, as file, and then I've got list1 equals pickle.load file, and then print list1. Now the reason I said list1 is so that you can see that it's saved the list, and what it will do is it will print the list here to show that it's this one, and then it will print list1 to show that it is that separate list. So if I run that, you can see that we've got the list here, which is this list, and then the second list is this one here, and it's saved it as the same data type. So it means that it's come back into your program exactly the same as it left. If you opened up the example file, you can see that it's saved in a very strange way, so you can't actually read this information, but Python is able to read that information, it's able to understand what that file is. So it's a very useful way of being able to have your coding sent and preserved. So you should recognize this code from the previous video where we had a look. I've added just some comments in here just so that I can see what my coding does and just to remind myself of what it's doing at different stages. Now just to start with, very first thing we want to do is import statistics. So you just want to import your statistics, and then we're going to start using the statistics function. So I'm going to keep this up just on the left side so that you can see what I'm using here, just so that we can refer back to it if we need to. Now we're going to have to change the function slightly, because what we want to do is we don't want it just to straight away output the average, because at the moment this program will output the average. So we've got it where it adds the number. If it's no, then it's going to come here and it's going to start doing the average. Now what we can do is we can change this here. So we want it to break out the loop, and what we want to do is we want to add a new input. So I'm going to call this one choice. So choice equals input from the user. So let's call it what calculation made, and then we can say you can choose from mode, median, or average. So we'll keep the average in there as well, so it means that the user can still calculate using that if they want to. And that's choice there. So what we're going to do is we're going to have basically an option here. So if choice is equal to, let's say, we'll do mode first. So let's say choice is equal to mode. Now, remembering what I showed you at the end of that previous video, just put my bracket here as well, just to finish that one off, that you can do or, and if I did choice equal to, and let's say mode, but a lowercase, then it means that you're kind of covering your bases. So if someone decides to do a lowercase m or an uppercase m, it still accepts it as a valid response. And then what we want it to do is we want it to run the mode. So we will say mode equals, and the reason we're giving it a variable is because we're going to want it to print out that variable, so you have to give it something to print out, and we want it to store that within the RAM. So statistics dot mode, and then we choose the list. Okay, so remembering that ours is called stored numbers, have a look at yours and see what you've called yours, because that's the variable that you're going to need. So stored numbers, enter there, and then what I can do is I can choose print mode, like so. So it means that as it comes down here, if they've then chosen no, it should break out that loop, and it should then come here and say choice equals input, what calculation should be made, etc. And then it should go through here. So let's have a look and see if that's working, see if there's any invalid syntaxes anywhere. Right, so would you like to add a number? Yes. So add your numbers. You can always start with a full list if you wanted to, but I'm just keeping my program so it's an empty list. You then go to know what calculation should be made for your choice. Okay, so let's go, let's say mode. Okay, so what's happened is that it's gone through and it's taken the average as well. So actually we've got mode and we've got the average. So if I then tab this across, because what we're going to do is we're going to have an if function here, so we can add that in there. So let's say what calculation should be made. We'll do that. Excellent. Okay, so now what we'll do is do if the choice equals to average, then it's going to run this one instead. Now you should be getting an idea of kind of where I'm going with this, so it should give you a good understanding of how these codes are built up. Average like that. And I'll put exit there. We could also add an exit here, like so. So there's slightly different ways of doing it. And then we'd also need to add another one, which is if choice is equal to median, let's do it lowercase first, or choice equal to median. Then we want it to do median equals statistics dot median, and then we'll do bracket and then call our variable for the list like so. And then we've also got our print median so that we get the information out of there, and then we can also do exit. Let's see there, so another bracket there. Okay, so let's add a number, yes, yes. Okay, so now let's no more numbers, so what calculation should be made? Let's go for median. Let's see what I've done. Choice capital there. Do that again. So yes, 200. Then we'll do no. Okay, so let's do median. Statistics. The other thing to be aware of as well is if you do a capital S, then it won't work either. So you have to do statistics exactly as it should be and no capitals. Okay, so median. There we go. So median for this one was 100. So we would end up with median as being our centre number. So it's a nice easy way, very easy way to kind of get that program working. So let's have a look now at how we could actually store that number there and how we could get it to read that number back if we wanted it to. So we're going to add an if function so that we can say to the user, do you want to load a previous number from a file, or do you want to use a fresh start basically. So if we create this, so we'll add it first so that it stores the list. So if we do import pickle, so import pickle at the top, and then we're going to make it so that it goes down, and we can set it so that it doesn't exit. We could also give our user some more functions here, so you could have some functions created up here so that you could then loop this round until the user wants to quit. At the end of this, we could have a function, so instead of exiting out, it's going to break out of that and it's going to go across, and we're going to basically get them to say, do you want to save the result? So let's just call it save equals input. So would you like to save list? And then we'll say here, so we'll do it first for yes, so if save is equal to yes, so if they say yes, then we want it to be able to save that information. So what we can do is we can get it to open a file. So let's say with open and bracket, and then we'll give it a name. So we'll call it a list save .txt, and then comma, and then don't forget that it's WB because it's right binary, and then we're going to do as file, like so. And then what we can do is we can do the pickle .dump. So dump, and then we'll call it stored numbers. Okay, so it's going to do that, and we're going to do a comma there, and then file. So it's going to save those lists. So let's go through, see how this works. So let's just do a couple of numbers. Let's do no now. Okay, let's do the average this time. Okay, so average is 95. Would you like to save the list? Let's do yes, and then it should come up and it's saved the list. Now, if it's saved the list, we should see a file here. Yep, so we've got list save. Obviously, if we open this, this doesn't mean anything to us because it's written using binary formats and it's written in a pickle format. So what we're going to do is we are then going to add an option right at the top. So we're going to basically ask them, would you like to load your previous responses? And then we can ask them as well, of course, would you like to add a number? So it means, would they like to add more to that list? So if we put here, let's call this just load equals input would you like to load an old list? Okay, and then if they say, we can choose to do yes here, for example. So if load is equal to yes, so we'll get them to load the file. So if load equals yes, this is where we want to then have our next bit. So this is where we want to load the pickle, and what we're going to do is we're going to load it and save it as stored numbers. So we're going to use the same variable because then the rest of our code will still continue to work. So what we'll do is stored numbers equals load file. Okay, so we've got that variable there. Now we're going to have to open the file. So open with open. Now we can just load the default file every time because we're not giving them the option to set a specific name for the save in this function, so they don't really have any choice at the moment. So we're always going to load the same save because that is the save that will always be saved for them. So if I did that, okay, so we've got list save.txt, and we've got WB. Now don't forget this one's going to be RB because we're reading this time, so we're reading in binary, and then we've said that the stored numbers is equal to pickle.load, and then we've said file, so I need to add as file here, like so, and then I'm just going to break this down a little bit down there. Okay, and just put a gap there just to make it a little bit easier to read. So let's just do load file just so that we know which part it is. I'll just put main here just so that that's the main part. Now if load equals yes, then it's going to go through and here. So it's going to go through and do this. So it's going to run this. then if it's anything else, it will just ignore it. So that's what we've got. Indent there. Now this is quite an important one here, is that if you've got something like this that you want to indent across, you can select it and then just push indent once, and what it does is it indents the entire thing across once, so it does save a lot of time. So would you like to load an old file? So let's see. So would we like to add a number? Yes, let's add a number. So let's say, let's add 1. Okay, so we've got 90, 100 and 1. So if we look up here, we can see that 90 and 100 was from the previous run round of this, and then we've now added 1 to this. So let's not add another number. Let's do average. Okay, and then if we choose to save the list, it means that it will save the list, and when we load this again, it means that we can add another number, and we've still got our previous numbers and the list. So this is a really nice and efficient way of reloading our files so that we can use them again. Now, of course, there's some improvements that could be made with this. I could have it so that there were actual functions separately put into this. You could also have it so that there was an option to loop it, there was an option to set an empty list, and you could also add the function of an if statement here so that if someone didn't want to load the file or wanted to start with an empty list, then you could also build that into this as well. So there's a couple of ways to look at improving this and to work on this, but I'm hoping that you have understood the idea of this and you're able to use the import statistics and to use the import pickle function.